me get the mic. Honey, I got something to say. Ooh, I like that. Can you turn that up for me? No, like, it's Maja. But you know, Maj for short. Ask Maj.
What's up? What's up? It's your girl Maj, and we are back with another episode of Ask Maj, the podcast, where I am spilling all the real tea. Y'all, I'm so excited. I got an interview today with Miss Alexis Bennett, who is a commerce writer for Vogue. And I think that her story will be inspiring to all of us, just as she talks about her journey to becoming a writer for Vogue. So it's going to be so good. I can't wait for our conversation. So I'm going to jump straight into the Maj moment so we can get into our interview. Okay, so, I got to share a quick story. So Bae and I were talking. Hey, Boo. Hey, Bae. We were talking, and he was going through something this past week. Babe, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. Uh-oh. I didn't ask first, but it's okay. He was going through something this week, and he shared it with me, and he and I were talking, and he goes, it's crazy to me how, you can feel like you're doing so good and then something bad happens to you. And he's like, it's confusing. Sometimes you really don't understand why. And you ask God, like, what happened? Like, I'm doing good. Why does this bad thing have to happen to me? And then it's like just another thing for you to worry about. Right. And so he and I were talking. I was just encouraging him. And I told him, I said, I understand what you mean, right? And I think there are some times where, we'll never understand, in that moment, why we went through what we went through, right? Especially if we feel like we're doing everything right and something bad still happens to us, right? We may not, I guess, figure it out in that moment. But the Maj moment, this is where it comes from. I told him, I said, no matter what you go through or no matter what you're going through, there's always either going to come out a lesson or a blessing. One of two things, no matter what you're going through. So even if you are unsure in that moment, or you have no idea why you're going through what you're going through, you do not understand, honey. The Bible says, lean not to your own understanding. That's number one. But, when you really don't understand it, you're in that questioning mode, like, why is this happening to me? I don't understand. I'm frustrated because I feel like I'm doing everything right. Child, like I said, even if you don't know what's going to happen or why you're going through what you're going through, remember that one thing has to come out of it. It's either going to be a lesson or a blessing. So either way, you win in the end. So I just wanted to share that, like, whatever you're going through, and if you may not understand or you don't know where it's leading to, understand and be confident and be firm and trust that one or two things is going to come out, either a lesson or a blessing. One or two things is going to come out of your storm, either a lesson or a blessing. So that is the Maj moment of the day, of the week, of the year, however long y'all need it. And we are going to jump right into our interview with Miss Alexis Bennett. Hello, Miss Alexis.
Maja, thank you. Don't make me blush.
Yes, I'm so glad that you joined me today. Y'all, real quick. So I don't even know where to start. So Alexis is low-key my cousin because she is engaged to my blood cousin. So she is a cousin to me. And for Thanksgiving, I was telling y'all that I traveled and we went to celebrate my dad's side of the family for Thanksgiving, and Alexis was there. So we just did a lot of bonding and hanging out. So I actually just saw her like a month ago. Yeah. So we just kind of link it back up again, and we talked about doing this podcast. So I'm so excited that, we've been able to kind of, make this come to fruition. So I got a really excited conversation for you guys today, and I'm hoping that, this will inspire somebody listening. So let's jump right into it. So first, I just want to ask, right, like, we're in this pandemic and, y'all, quick little secret. I'm about to put Alexis on Front Street. She says she be eating out all the time. So, how are you holding up during the pandemic? I feel like it's a year now, we about to go into 2021 and we are still here.
Yeah.
So like what is the like pandemic like for you? How is it just living? Yeah. What is this like for you?
I mean, honestly, it's become like a new norm. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to feel once I have to like actually leave the house every day. Like, I feel like I kind of have anxiety about that. Like, I'm just getting so used to doing everything at home, and I've been working from home since March. Started a new job in September. Haven't even met any of my coworkers in person. Like, probably wouldn't know them if I saw them on the street. Like, but you know, at first, like, I was like really nervous and panicking, but I'm always that type of person, like, try to find a silver lining in everything. So I'm just like trying to appreciate this moment, because I know that we'll probably never have a time like this in our entire lives where we can just slow down. And for me, it just made me realize like how much I was just running, and just a lot of like excess things that were in my life that I didn't need, or just like, and I say that from like a consumer standpoint. Like, I mean, I would like probably go to Starbucks twice a day. Like, I don't need, you already mentioned, you put me on blast that I eat out all the time.
I had to
but like just little like stuff like that. It's like, I don't need that. Like, just sit home, stay still, like, you know, stack this paper while I can and keep it moving. Once we are, you know, in a post-COVID world, like, I'm gonna be ready for it. So
right. No, I feel that. It's like, like you said, it's a new norm. It's almost like scary to think about going back outside, right?
Yeah.
So Alexis, you did, you had kind of created this like little Instagram story, like timeline of your life, of your journey. And it's funny because when Trey's my cousin, shout out to Trey. When Trey and I talked about having you on the podcast, you know, we were talking about it, and then I saw the story. So it kind of just, you know, connected, and we hadn't, you know, established a date or anything, but when you put the story up, it was like, wow, I think this would be perfect. But, you know, the story was just about, you know, your timeline from, you know, graduating, taking this huge risk and moving to New York, you know, because you were in love with fashion, and, you know, just kind of like your journey to where you are today. So that's really why I was like, oh yes, this will be so perfect. So first I want to talk about, obviously, you moved to New York for your fashion passion. Mm-hmm. So when and how did you find that passion for fashion and writing about fashion and that journalism like aspect of fashion?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I definitely always loved fashion, like even as a child. For me, I think like my first like really falling in love with it was like watching America's Next Top Model. And like, you know, I used to even have, it doesn't exist anymore, but it's called style.com. So I used to have that app on my phone. Like, I would be in college, not paying attention in class, and I would be looking at the runway shows and stuff like that. But I also come from a household where, and not that I don't think it's bad, or I don't want to like hold it against my mom or anything, but just like, it was never like, you're going to go to school to be a doctor, you know, a lawyer. You're not going to college to work in fashion. Like, it just didn't make sense. And it didn't ever really register in my mind that I could, you know, have a successful career in the industry outside of even just, I think for me, I always thought like, you know, maybe I could be a model, but like, I didn't know that there was anything like more to it. And when people say they want to work in fashion, there is so much you can do. And so that love has always been there. That interest has always naturally been there. Even like, especially I look back to, and like the job that I have now, like I'm the type of person, like if I need a black dress for a party and I go on my favorite website and they have 27 pages of dresses, I'm going to look through every single page.
Oh, Jesus.
I find the perfect one. Like that's literally what I do for work now. Like, I don't know if you remember or you heard like your nephews was like telling me like, you're not working, you looking at clothes. Like when I was working during Thanksgiving, like I'm like, no, this is my job. This is what I do for work. So I've always like naturally had an interest in the things that I'm now doing for a living. But as far as like, how did I, you know, figure out that I wanted to write for magazines? I think all of that started after college. Like I graduated without having any internships in my industry. When I was in undergrad, I interned for Seminole Boosters. I went to Florida State University. So Seminole Boosters is the club that gives our athletic programs donations and raises money for the teams, for the athletic funds. So I interned there. Like at one point I was gonna like do PR for like football players. Like, I think I thought like that was a job that I wanted after like watching the game. I don't know if you remember like the publicist on there. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have her job. I think her name was like Dion or something like that. And also my brother played in the NFL. So I was like, I'll use his connections in the NFL. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. So, I mean, thank God I decided to carve my own path and really just, do something that made me excited. Initially, when I went to college, I was a chemistry major. Like, I thought I was going to be an anesthesiologist. But after the second time failing chemistry 1045, like, I was like, okay, this ain't going to work. Like, I got to figure out something else. So yeah, I ended up getting my degree in English, specializing in editing, writing, and media. And then after I graduated, I went back to school. I think a lot of people do this too. You don't have a job lined up. You don't really have any opportunities, and you don't know like what's going to be next for you. So going back to school is kind of like a way to like pass more time until I got my shit together. Like, and also it gave me an opportunity to move to New York. And because I had a scholarship, and that was my only way to get here. And I knew I needed to be here just because like this at that time, I would say was one of the fashion capitals of the world. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like, especially with the internet, social media, everything, like you can be anywhere. You don't have to be in New York. But at that time, like I was like, I have to be here. And yeah, so that's kind of like, I don't know if that really answered your question, but that's kind of like how, I came to, now working at Vogue. I mean, there's so much more to it. Yeah. I don't know if you want the long story short.
We're going to get there in a second. We're going to get there in a second.
Yeah.
So you said that you went back to school, right? Mm-hmm. And this was kind of like your ticket to New York. Mm-hmm. And I remember on your Instagram story, you were saying, like I moved to New York. I didn't know anyone. Mm-mm. I didn't have family. And you're from Florida. You went to Florida State. That's like the other side of the country.
Yeah.
So how did you like combat that fear of like moving somewhere with no family? I mean, if you really want to be honest, no real resources if you didn't have a network because you didn't have any internships. No. So you didn't have a network, no family, no resources. I mean, this was literally a whole new start for you.
Yeah.
So how did you like overcome that fear? And even you knew, I guess New York was, the fashion capital, but you still don't know what's for you there, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you combat that fear and just say, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go?
Honestly, I think like at that time I was just so young. It's something like maybe even you could say I was naive and just blissful and like, I'm gonna make my dreams come true. Like, and not really thinking about the harsh realities of New York. Like, before I moved here, I didn't know how expensive like real estate was and finding an apartment, how hard it was going to be. Not only is it hard to find an apartment, like the price obviously is like another barrier that I had to get over. But like, I remember like, so when I moved to New York, I flew up here the Saturday before school started. And I was like, I'll come on Saturday, get an apartment, move in on Sunday and go to school on Monday. Girl, I ended up staying at the hotel that I stayed at for a month before I found an apartment, an entire month. And then when I did find an apartment, it was the smallest studio ever. Like it was so bad. And I was paying $1,100 a month for it. And that's probably nothing now. This is back in 2012. Now that place is probably $2,000 a month. But yeah, so like I wouldn't say I was fearful or afraid. I've kind of always I'm like naturally curious at heart. Like I love to travel. Like later this month, I'm doing a solo trip to Maui. Yes, ooh, we can get into that.
Trey was okay with that?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, wow. Okay, Chair. Ooh, Chair. Wow. We don't have to talk about that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not afraid to like go places and travel by myself. I did study abroad in London, like while I was in undergrad. So for me, it was just like, you know what, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. And like you kind of mentioned it too, like I didn't have any resources. I didn't have any experience. Even at that time, like I remember I applied to work at Forever 21 in Times Square. I couldn't even get a job there, like in retail. Like, so in my goal too, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start in the store, start at Forever 21 and work my way up to fashion. I'm gonna be in the corporate office at Forever 21. And thank God that didn't work out too, because that's just not for me. But like, just like, I just like felt like everything. And two, I'm a big spiritual person. So like I prayed about like, I'm like, you know what? One of my biggest prayers always is like, if this isn't for me, like take it away from me. Like, I don't want it. Like, and yeah, to me, it's just like super important to like make sure to have clarity, especially I feel like now, like where we live in an age where we have such an abundance of everything, we can see what everyone else is doing. You really get like clouded and distracted and think like, oh, they're doing good at something. I could probably do that too. Like, but no, that's not your assignment. Like, what's your assignment? What are you here to do? So for me, I just felt like all the stars were aligning and, you know, being able to go back to school, my tuition was paid for and my housing was paid for. So for me, I was like, you know what, and I had an allowance on top of that. So I was like, you know what, this like, it just makes too much sense. I have to do it. And so, yeah, that's really like how I kind of, you know, started off my first couple of months, days in New York.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So let's kind of go after you have your second degree, your master's, kind of take us through the journey. I know, right? Take us through the journey to becoming a writer for Vogue. And I know this is such a long journey for you. So try to, I guess, kind of point out those highlighted, those impactful kind of moments along your journey. And I know one of the things that really touched me or caught my attention from your story was you said that you used to like hide in the bathroom at work and apply for jobs. So take us through that story, and then we're going to get into kind of some obstacles you faced along the way. But take us through that journey of becoming a writer for Vogue Magazine and where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, so like you mentioned, after I graduated with my master's, I still, you know, didn't have the job opportunity that I wanted, and so I ended up, you know, I did a lot of retail jobs, but, you know, I didn't feel like my like, for example, working at Bed Bath & Beyond, I was assigned to the towel section to keep the towels folded, but I didn't feel like that was my job. I felt like my job was to find another job. Like,
okay.
I would literally like hide in the bathroom, be on my phone, like Indeed. I don't even know if they still exist now, but like I would do like apply for jobs on Indeed where you could just automatically upload your resume. Like you don't even have to do it, like just doing it. And my goal was like, okay, to apply for at least 20 jobs a day. Like I'm telling you, I had to apply to over like 100 jobs, like for sure. Like, so yeah, but after I graduated, the first full-time job that I landed was at a marketing agency, and I was an executive assistant. So, you know, obviously that's not what I moved here to do, but to me, I felt like it was in, you know, the entertainment kind of industry, like, which was kind of close to fashion. I was like, whatever, and it paid me full-time salary. So I took that, and it also kind of sounds like a responsible job to have, like executive assistant, whatever. But the people there, oof, girl, like I feel like also. So first of all, I was the only Black person at the company, and I'm the assistant. But I really felt like I was the slave. Like not on, like you hear about people like having to go get coffee, like. I had to make coffee. Like, I didn't even know how, I don't drink coffee. I'm a tea person. Like, I don't know how to use a coffee maker. So there was this like nice young boy, and I like asked him like, where did the beans go? Like he showed me everything. So not only did I have to make the coffee, but I had to come in before everybody else so that it was hot when they got there. Like little stuff like that. Yeah. Ooh. Or like I will order lunch for the owners, and when the lunch would come, because they're not going to eat out of the plastic, I have to put it on glass plates for them. Yeah. And then when they're done with it in their office, I have to come and move the plates. So it's like low key, they made like, like that those were my duties as an executive assistant. And so I got to a point though, I had to quit. That was like, my mom was so mad at me too, but I was just like, my soul, like every time I walked into that door in the morning, I could feel my soul like drop. Like it was really eating at me. So I ended up quitting with nothing lined up. And I was like, you know what I'm doing? Like, I'm gonna work at a magazine. And when I like left, like everybody kind of, you know, when you tell them you're leaving, like people kind of say like, congrats. And like, but I didn't have like nothing else. I'm just like, I gotta get the hell up out of here. But like maybe after a week after I left, I ended up getting an internship at Vibe Vixen, which doesn't exist anymore. It's the sister magazine to Vibe, which is a music magazine. And so I was supposed to be the beauty and fashion intern. I mostly wrote beauty stories. And I did like my first interviews there. So that was like such a big deal to me. I remember I interviewed like Adrienne Bailon. Who else? I did like a little feature with this fashion designer. I can't think of her name right now, but like those are my first times like really, you know, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like, I don't even know why they assigned me to like do that stuff. But I always tell people when they're like, you know, how can I become a great journalist? And it's just like, you just got to do it. It's no like book you can read, no class you can take, like nothing replaces like getting that experience. So yeah, I know I'm kind of going in circles, but you asked me about, you know, after I graduated, that's what I did. I interned, and that's why I was working those retail jobs too, because that was, the internship wasn't a paid internship. It was free. Ooh. So I had those retail jobs on the side to actually pay my rent. And at this point too, by the time I graduated from school, now I'm living in a $1,400 a month apartment, studio apartment, still studio.
You had upgraded.
But literally, when I tell you, it took every single cent that I earned to pay the rent. And that's when then I started to get credit cards, and Lord, thank God for credit cards. That's like really how I was able to like eat. Like it got really low. But yeah, like I said, I just kept applying for jobs. And then my first like freelance gig that I landed at that was paid for InStyle, I was a freelance fact checker. The way I got that though, so I gotta go back, rewind a little bit. Before I moved to New York, I actually interviewed with InStyle for an internship. And I did not get it. I literally flew up to New York for one day. So in the morning and came, I like didn't have any money to stay or nothing. I was just like, you know what, let me do this interview. And I remember it snowed in New York. And I had on like this little white dress with a blazer and like some boots, but like boots to Florida people. Like,
yes.
Boots to New Yorkers. And my legs were just out. I remember, and it's just snowing. I was just so happy to be there. But I was a hot mess during the interview. I left my resume in my mom's car when she dropped me off to the airport. Like, so I came to the interview without a resume. But I stayed in contact with some of the editors that I met. And every now and then I would shoot them an email saying like, hey, like, I saw you on Wendy Williams talking about silk pajamas. Like, those are so cute. I love that. Like, just staying in touch. And at the time, I don't even think I really knew like what networking is, or like, I was just like genuinely interested in what she was doing and knew I wanted to do that. So years later, she reaches out to me and says that they're looking for a freelance fact checker if I know anyone who's interested. And I was like, me, duh. Right. So that's like how I got my first paying magazine opportunity. But it was only for 2 weeks. It was a freelance position. It was only for 2 weeks. So they needed someone like during the busy times. That's pretty much was like my early, after graduating with my MBA, like that was my experiences. It was really tough. It was humbling. I'll tell you, like, nobody in fashion gives a damn that you have an MBA. Like, it really doesn't matter. I don't even think, I would even go as far to say, like, your undergrad doesn't even matter as much. It's more so, like, experience, and especially for what I do, experience and who you know, like, your network is everything.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point that you brought up. I hate to agree with you. I hate to agree with you on this, but you're right. And I mean, in the journalism, communications, marketing, maybe marketing, but PR world, honey, they don't care about that master's degree. Your master's degree is strictly street cred. So when I'm around all these white folks at these big tech companies, I can say, "Oh, I have a graduate degree from Georgetown," and they're like, "Oh," you know what I'm saying? Right. But otherwise, it don't hold no weight. And I always tell people,
guarantee you anything.
It doesn't. And, and I learned that the hard way. I thought getting a master's was my certificate into, honey, was I in for a rude awakening? So no, I completely understand that. So now how did you land the job with Vogue? Because that's huge.
Ooh, okay. So we can talk about Vogue specifically. So actually, it's 2020. I have worked at 3 magazines this year. Like,
wow.
Did not think that would happen. Which is like, so I started the year off at InStyle. I have been at InStyle for years, as you could tell, like from my previous story. Like, InStyle is one of those magazines I think that was always close to my heart, and that was my dream magazine. Like, when I made my vision boards, I would cut out my name off my resume and tape it onto the masthead on InStyle. And I always really wanted to work at InStyle, worked there for years. But I left earlier this year because I felt like I had got to a place where there was no growth opportunities. And although I loved it, like, I cannot feel like I'm not growing. So my position there, I didn't have like a direct manager, and I didn't have, anyone working underneath me. I was the e-commerce editor, and I felt like, like there's really nowhere for me to go in this role. So I was like, I got to go somewhere to grow. And that's one thing, like, I'm not afraid to move around if I have to move around. Like,
okay.
Or like, I would never say, I was talking to someone and they were telling me how they don't feel valued. And I'm like, leave. Like, I would never stay somewhere if I didn't feel valued, or if I didn't, which I did feel valued at InStyle. But I just felt like, for me personally, there was nothing more I could learn in that position. And there was nowhere for me to go forward, to go higher. So I left and went to Cosmo. I worked at Cosmo Magazine. I started there in February. Loved it. Like, when I tell you the growth opportunities that I wanted, that's what they gave me. Like, letting me lead strategy for e-commerce and creating shopping content for the website. Really like allowing me to work with freelancers and top edit their stories. Like, the things that I wanted, they were giving that to me, and I would not have left. But I got an email. I got an email from Vogue asking me if I was interested in an opportunity. And, whenever I get stuff like that, like, I'm always going to be like, sure, like, tell me more. And obviously it's Vogue. Like, this is the biggest fashion magazine that you can work for in the world. So they set me up for an interview. I ended up having 4 interviews with Vogue, and doing an edit test. Edit tests are beast. Doing an edit test, and I ended up getting a job offer from them. And for me, it was tough because I didn't want to leave a good situation. And then you never know when you're starting a new job, what you're going to walk into. Too.
Yep.
So, but I know, like, when I went into my interviews, like, I made it clear, interviews for me, it's a 2-way street. It's not just, what I can do for you, but like, what can you do for me? So I made it clear, like, look, this is the type of leadership that I have right now at Cosmo. Like, my editor-in-chief, like, is a champion for me. Like, and I want that same thing. Like, and so, like, I made that clear. And I felt like I was stepping and moving into a great opportunity. So I made the change. That's how I landed my job at Vogue. They reached out to me, and, I don't know how they discovered me or found out about my work, but I will say, I think I'm getting better at it, but I try to post my work on my social media. Like, I use my resume isn't just this like Word document, Microsoft Word document. My resume is my social media profiles too, like my LinkedIn. Like, I always tell people, keep stuff like that updated. Like, you never know who's looking at you, who's watching. So I think maybe, you know, they heard about me through the streets or whatever, in some kind of way.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how I came to Vogue. And it's been great. It's been a great 2-3 months. So
yeah. Yes. Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now when you think about, I guess, the journey and everything that you've shared thus far, one of the major things that you talked about was obviously, you know, not having a network, not having, you know, resources. And then even when you think about, you know, later on in your career, you know, you didn't have those opportunities for growth. And so that was one of the reasons why you know, pursued other things. So what would you say, I guess, just along this entire journey, what has been some of the major, I guess, like obstacles along the way?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like New York in itself is just made with obstacles. Like everything.
New York is the obstacle.
Literally everything here that's like a necessity in Florida is like a luxury here. So like having a car, like that's a luxury here. Well, you need that in Florida. Like there's basically no public transportation system in Florida. Like, or having air conditioning, like that's a luxury here, or having a washer and dryer. So I think, you know, those little things, just adjusting to the city was obstacles for me. But I've always, like, I tell Trey, like, it made me a thug. It made me tough.
Okay.
Like, I was definitely super spoiled and sheltered and soft before I moved here. But like New York has definitely, you know, toughed me up. Other obstacles, I would say just myself. Like at times you can be your biggest obstacle. So just, you know, believing in yourself, and I think being able to believe in yourself comes with dedicating yourself to your work. Like, and I think a lot of times if you putting yourself out there and you're like, I'm applying for these jobs, but then it's like, well, am I qualified? Have I done the work? You know, I think a lot of times we wait for somebody else to give us an opportunity when you can create them on your own. Like if you want to work in magazines, basically, or if you want to be a writer, like you don't have to wait until a magazine hires you. You have like WordPress. You can start your own blog. You can write now. You have Twitter. Like just write. You know, if you want to write. You don't have to wait until somebody tells you are qualified to write. So I think, you know, sometimes the biggest obstacle is yourself. And when you put in the work, when you work on like perfecting your craft, being the best at what you do, then I think it's easier to believe in yourself. If you, you know, put in more hours than anyone on your team, you know, you're the first one in, you know, you're the last one to leave. How could you not believe in yourself? And you start to like, you know, it starts to give you like a confidence booster, knowing that nobody is working harder than you. Right. So yeah, I think like, just like, you know, besides the little New York City stuff, like obstacles would be like myself and mental. I think even your mental is like way more important than, you know, any skill set that you could have, like sharpening, you know, your internal clock and, I don't know, just really like working on yourself and your mindset. I think is so important. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if we take it back a little bit, you know, you talked about, you know, being at Vogue, you haven't even had a chance to go into the office. And then kind of tying it back into, you know, just if you want to be a writer, use what you have, you know, in front of you, blogging, WordPress, Twitter, whatever else, or freelancing for other people. How would you say, or let me ask it this way, has writing, I guess that entire industry, like writing and media, do you feel like COVID has presented kind of a disadvantage if you want to be a writer, or is it more advantageous for people who want to be writers? Because I mean, we're in the digital space, right? Like COVID has completely changed everything. So what would you say about that? I mean, I definitely say more of an advantage. Like now, you know, we used to like the fact that we went in the office 5 days a week, and now we see like especially I work for a website. Everything we do is digital. So it's like, I don't have to be in the office. I don't have to be in New York. Like I can be anywhere. Like I was just with you in Orlando working. And I think it's an advantage for people who, you know, felt like they couldn't come to New York. Like, and now that companies see like, you know, you don't have to be here. I even have coworkers who have moved away. Like they don't live here anymore. You know, and it could be temporary. Maybe they're going to move back, but they they definitely see that, you know, being remote, you can still be remote and be productive. So I would say it's an advantage to people who aren't necessarily, you know, in the city or the hub that they want to work in. And I mean, there's some disadvantages. I would say, like, I miss, and especially as a writer and brainstorming, just those small conversations that you have. You know, maybe you're at the water cooler getting something to drink and you just say something random and it sparks a story idea. Like, we don't have that anymore. It's a Zoom meeting, and it's like, it's really hard to have like that, just that small talk that you don't really get over Zoom. But I mean, I've been enjoying it, honestly. Like, I'm just like, you know, wearing socks every day, not putting on shoes.
Okay.
So, you know, it's pros and cons, but I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah. It's funny that you said, you know, you don't get to have those small talks on Zoom because, honey, Zoom means I'm like, are y'all done?
It's draining.
It's so draining. And I completely understand that. I used to work for a digital marketing agency. And when you are in, I guess, the profession of just like writing or strategy, comms, marketing, there's this like creative, like weird aspect. I don't even know what to call it, but there's just like this creative energy. And I love it because everybody shares that same creative energy. Like working at a digital marketing agency, like everybody's always trying to find a new way to design something or to invent something, whether it be writing, copywriting, you know, designing a graphic logo thing. Like, so that was all we talked about, was creating something new. So it, like, I get what you're saying about those, just like brainstorming sessions and being around other creatives. Yeah, because you know, honey, y'all get on my nerves on Zoom. It's a whole different
energy thing too. Like, it's just good to like feel that, like, be around people with the same energy as you too. Like, I think that'll inspire you too. And I think for me too, that's why I love New York too. Like, the city in itself has a certain energy that like no other city has. It does. I feed off of that. Like, I used to live in New Jersey too, like, because I was like, okay, I work in the city, live in New Jersey, like, you know, I only slept there, like, didn't really like know anything about New Jersey and like what to do there. But now that I've been remote, like working from home, you know, Trey and I were like, we need to be in the city. Like, especially if we're going to be working from home for God knows how long. Like, we just miss the energy and coming here 5 days a week. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just so special. Even with like social distancing and like everything closed and like you can't go to a restaurant and eat inside. Like, it's still just something about like being around like-minded people who, you know, are like striving for something, who are like, you know, it just feels like everybody here is just going somewhere, no matter like what it may be. And I don't know, I just love that. I love to just be around like-minded people. So
New York definitely has this like hustle energy. Like, you feel like everybody you walk past is on a mission. Where you going?
For sure. And it could just be like they going to Subway. Like, they're not going to go home.
But it's just, but I'm hustling to Subway. I'm hustling to Subway. No, but when we think about, you know, being around those creative people and that creative energy, that's one thing I love about just like being in that creative space, working at, you know, a digital marketing agency. What would you say you enjoy most about working at Vogue?
What do I enjoy the most? I mean, creating content. Like, for me, I mean, because that's really all I'm doing now. What I miss about being an editor is like, we don't have, you know, events that I can go to and I can, you know, see some of my peers at the events, like seeing collections in person, like seeing the clothing in person, being able to touch it. Like, I miss that. But so right now, like, my favorite part is just creating the content, or like, you know, putting an up and coming brand in a story and just seeing like their reaction and their gratitude, and seeing how much like merchandise I can move or sell for them, or like how, you know, I can help and have a positive impact on their business. I think that's the most rewarding part. And even like, you know, sometimes I get to write stories that necessarily like don't have to do with my bottom line, that just stuff that I'm passionate about, and just being able to like write about things like that. Like, I did a farewell to Kushni, which is one of the few prominent brands in America led by a Black woman, and it's closing. So y'all already know it's not many of us. And also women, like, if you think about most prominent fashion brands, they're led by men, which is a whole nother story for another topic. But Yeah, I got to write a farewell to that, and just like, being able to like express yourself, I think is really cool, and it's fun to just, put your voice out there. Although, you're putting out there for a lot of criticism, it's trolls on the internet and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I know it.
But I love that. So that's definitely my favorite part, creating the content.
Yeah, good stuff. So I know I mentioned on the in the beginning, I talked about kind of some of the obstacles you face, right? So let's flip that. Mm-hmm. What would you say are some of the major things that you feel have contributed to your success just as a writer? Especially when you think about just your journey and kind of starting from, I don't know where I'm finna go, what's gonna happen, but I gotta work from it. I was interviewing this girl. She's a radio personality here in DC. And one thing, when I asked her that question, she said something. She was like, I knew this had to work. She was like, because there was no plan B for me. She was like, this was gonna work. Anyway, that reminded me of what you said when you were like, I'm gonna write for a magazine. And even when you were like, when I was working at Bed Bath & Beyond, my job was to look for other jobs. So what would you say, I guess, has contributed to your success just and where you are now?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just showing up, like being there, like even, from my very like the entry level jobs, or like when I used to work in the fashion closet, that's like one of the first jobs you get in magazines. If you want to work in fashion, you work in the fashion closet. And basically what you're doing all day is opening packages, hanging them on a rack, sorting them, making sure they're in order when the editors come in. And then when they're done with it, returning it. So like even doing that, like I took that so seriously. And like, also then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be the first person here every morning, and all I'm doing is working in the closet. Like, so I think like just showing up and being there and knowing that, all of my managers I work with, they know they can depend on me. They know Alexis is gonna be there. They know, like, I think it's just like so important, of course, like obviously not to like burn bridges, and just, even if you're at a place that you don't want to be at long term, like, you never know, especially this industry is so small, you never know who's going to end up where, or, they can end up being somewhere that you do want to work. So for me, it's like just showing up, being there. I feel like that has definitely gotten me so many opportunities. Just like a little stuff I don't even know if I could even talk about. It's kind of confidential, but just like being the only person in the office in the morning, and then the editor-in-chief needs a favor, and you're the only person that can help her.
Okay.
Like, because you're there. I was just happened to be there. So like little stuff like that, I think, definitely showing up has contributed. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm a hard worker. Even like I said, that marketing job, like I didn't like it, but I had to like tell myself, like going back to like spirituality, like I'm not working to please man, like I'm working to please God. Like I try to think of my work that way. Especially too, I've been in points like when I didn't have a job, like for me, that's depressing. Like not, because I feel like I'm not contributing to society. Like those are like the lowest moments of my life for me. It's just like, what am I doing? Like I'm not adding value in no type of way. So no matter what job I have, I feel like, okay, like do it to the best of my ability. And I think that's so important with fashion too. You never want to be the person that's like, oh, that's not my job. Like, that's not my title. That's not my responsibilities. Like, and I've seen people be like that. And I feel like, that's holding them back. So just being a team player, being there, showing up, working hard, like, and not only working hard, but working smart. Like, you gotta know how to like, especially I feel like so many things that we have to juggle, and we work on a deadline schedule, like stories need to be up by a certain time. So just being able to like prioritize and know like what needs to get done now and what can wait until later. Yeah, that's good. And, that leads me right into my next question, because I wanted to ask, when you think about people who have I wouldn't say have a passion, I would say have a desire or an interest to go into writing and media, but they're stuck maybe because of COVID, or, they're still in a place of trying to find their passion. What advice would you offer them? Yeah, I would definitely say, like, don't think you can't network now. Like, it doesn't have to be face to face. Like, slide in someone's DMs. Like, that's actually how I got my job at Cosmo. When I'm the type. There's another thing I do too. If I'm applying for a job, like, I'm not just gonna apply on the website. I need to talk to someone there. So
that's it.
That helps. That helps so much.
That is it.
So I had like a mutual friend. We're like Instagram friends. We met at Coachella. Exactly. Who worked at Cosmo. Met at Coach. I was like, you know what? Let me just reach out to her and see if she knows anything about this position. Come to find out, she's the hiring manager.
Get out. That's crazy.
Yes. So like I slid into her DMs and I was like, you know what? I see this opportunity at Cosmo. I know I would kill it. This is what I've already done for InStyle. I know I can do that and more for Cosmo. Like, let me know if you know anything else about it. And then she was like, oh my gosh, like I thought about you like initially, but I thought that you would think like maybe this role is too junior or whatever. But I'm like, no, I want it. Like, what's up?
Right.
2 days later, I'm in there interviewing for it. So I will say to people who are trying to, make moves during COVID, like use all your resources, use everything that you have. Like, and I think now is a great time too, to just like DM people because people don't have nothing else to do. Like, so they're probably more likely to respond. They're just sitting at home, like watching Netflix too. So,
y'all ain't doing nothing.
If now is the time to reach out to everyone who you've like dreamt of talking to, working with, like just do it. Like, so yeah, I would say do that. Keep your LinkedIn's updated. Like people are really sleep on LinkedIn.
They are. Oh my gosh.
When I got my job at Soph, literally she told me she found me on LinkedIn. Well, she didn't have to tell me. She sent me a message and I ended up getting hired for that position there. So I would just say, make sure like all of your resume, whatever your experience is on there. Don't be afraid to like write, post, do comments. I think they have stories now. I haven't used it yet. Like I need to do stories on there. And like stuff. When you see stuff, like it, because also LinkedIn like pushes, like I don't know if you've ever seen like in notifications, it'll be like so-and-so like this.
Yeah.
You need to stay at the top of people's minds and just like, it's so many ways to just be seen and discovered. And I think, out of sight, out of mind is like a real thing. So if you can stay at the top of people's minds and they know, oh, so-and-so is good at this. I have this opportunity. Let me see if they're interested. So definitely just use the internet to your advantage. There's so many ways to meet people, or like Clubhouse. I don't know if you've gotten on Clubhouse yet.
I ain't there yet, child, but I'm gonna get there.
I just got on like this Saturday and I love it so much. And I think because not that many people are on it too. Like this is your time to like really meet a lot of people. So just like really trying to find your tribe and keep like using the internet like to your advantage. Like don't let COVID stop you at all. Hello.
Let them use your child even through COVID. But no, so you have this major opportunity, right? To me, you on top of the world. I know there's so much more to come, but you and Trey are really holding it down. So if I can ask, what's next? I know 2020 is over. We're going into 2021. So what's next? What's the vision?
For me, like I want to go all the way to the top. I want to be editor-in-chief one day at a magazine, which is the highest position you can have. And I know that I can do that. Also, on top of that, I want to make a name for myself outside of Vogue, outside of, my 9 to 5. Like I want to, offer my expertise to everyone, to people around the world, people who, up and coming designers or small business owners who want to figure out how do I get featured in Vogue? How do I get my brand, talked about in the magazine? I want to be that resource for them, and vice versa, because what I do as an e-commerce editor, I'm really, not only am I just talking about fashion, but I have the added responsibility of making sure that our content is monetized so that we also, figure out ways that we can earn revenue through the content we're creating. So, I want to teach influencers how to monetize their content. I want to teach, other people who are bloggers, how they too, like this world of affiliate networking is so powerful.
Well, I'm a blogger, so we're going to be in touch.
It's so powerful. I'm telling you, like I've seen companies make more than 8 figures from it. So, that's what's next for me. Like just to really like make sure I'm like really just showing the world like what I know and figuring out how I can help be of service to other people. Like for me, I want to just have an impact in a positive way on people, everyone that I come into contact with. So
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, if you want to start your portfolio,
yeah,
just call me. No, but that is so awesome. And I was like, yes, I'm so excited to be talking to Alexis today, especially after reading your story. I was like, oh, this will be so perfect. And it's not for me, it's not just about being a writer. You're a content creator, right? Like you're a creative. And so many people can relate to that because you are your own artist or creative in whatever industry you're in. Whatever you're creating is what makes you a creator or a designer or innovator in that particular industry. So I feel like you can relate in any way as long as, you see yourself as that creative. So no, I thank you so much for, joining me today and chatting on the podcast. Okay.
Of course. This is fun.
Yes. Of course, absolutely, chat. And if y'all need some a host for some celebrity panels, I'm here too. I do it all. Okay, just call me. No, but I like I said, I really appreciate you. This was awesome. And so look out for the episode on Wednesday because that's when it comes out.
I'm so excited. I'm gonna post it everywhere.
Yes. Okay. I hope your people see it. Hey, I'll have my people call your people so we can see the peoples.
Yes.
All right, Miss Lady. Well, I appreciate you so much. I'm gonna let you go for the night, and I'll talk to you soon. Tell Trey I said bye.
I will. Have a good night, Maja. Bye.
All right, you too. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right, that's your dose of Maj for this week. I will catch y'all on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Honey, I got something to say. I like that. Can you turn that up for me? No, like, it's Maja. But Maj for short. Ask Maj.